My fiancée wanted a break because of a new guy, so I left and relocated to a different city. Now she's stalking me. Her parents have apologized, but I refuse to engage. My fiancé asked for a break because of a new guy. I left and moved cities. Now she's stalking me, and her parents apologized, but I've refused to talk to her. I'm 34, and I'm not sure if I'm wrong for not speaking with my ex, Sarah, who is 29. We have a lot of history. In mid-2022, Sarah and I met at work and instantly clicked. I quickly fell for her, and we started dating. However, she ended things early on after a small disagreement, and to make it worse, she made a scene in front of everyone at work. I was heartbroken but didn't want to quit my job. Eventually, seeing her daily was too painful, so I decided to quit and find a new job. Since we lived close, we ran into each other often over the next few months. We started talking again, but despite my feelings, I couldn't get back together with her because of how much she'd hurt me. A few months later, she told me she regretted ending our relationship over something so petty, especially doing it in front of everyone. She said she'd been thinking about it ever since. She seemed truly sorry, and I believed her. I asked if she wanted to try again, and she agreed. By early 2023, we were officially back together. A year later, everything was great. We talked about marriage and building a future, and I felt ready to take the next step. I decided to surprise her with a proposal and started working extra hours to save for a house so we could get married. I kept it a secret because I wanted it to be a surprise. Then, out of nowhere, she asked for a break. I was shocked and confused when she wouldn't explain why. Around that time, I'd noticed her constantly talking about a new guy at her job, but then she suddenly stopped mentioning him, which made me suspicious. Confused and hurt, I reached out to my close friend, Emily, not her real name, who, along with her partner, still worked at the same company as Sarah. I told Emily what was happening and asked if she knew anything. She said she didn't know since they worked in different departments, but she'd look into it. A few days later, Emily got back to me. She said Sarah had been feeling distant, especially with me working longer hours and not going out as much. Emily also mentioned that some of Sarah's coworkers had encouraged her to take a break, believing I wasn't treating her well and wasn't invested enough. On top of that, they were trying to set her up with the new guy at work, claiming they'd be a better match. I then told Emily about my plans to propose and buy a house for us, explaining why I'd been working so much. I wanted to surprise Sarah with something big. About 2 weeks later, Sarah called and suggested we meet. I agreed but made it clear I needed an explanation for why she wanted a break before we talked about anything else. She said I seemed detached, making her feel like I wasn't as invested in our relationship anymore. I told her if she'd just talked to me, she would have understood my reasons, but it didn't matter anymore. Then she brought up the new guy at her job. I said his name before she could, and she was stunned, wondering how I knew. I told her I wasn't an idiot and pointed out how she suddenly stopped talking about him after constantly bringing him up. She claimed she'd never cheated, but I said that looking for someone better at the first sign of trouble could be considered cheating by some. At that point, I told her I didn't want to hear anything else. It didn't matter if she wanted to reconcile, I was ending our relationship regardless. The breakup devastated me. I couldn't stand being in the same town, so I asked my employer for a transfer and used the money I'd saved for the house to start over in a new city. While talking with Emily, she apologized. She said she made a mistake by telling Sarah about my plans to propose and buy a house, adding that Sarah burst into tears when she heard. I appreciated Emily's honesty, but it didn't change anything. By mid-December last year, I was back in my hometown for Christmas and New Year's with my family. Some friends wanted to throw a party to get everyone together since many of us, including me, had moved away and were only back for the holidays. Sarah was invited too. We barely spoke that night, just a quick hello in passing. I glanced at her and saw her smiling while talking with a group of women. That smile brought back so many memories. I realized seeing her smile still made me feel the same way it did the first time. I wondered how messed up I was for still feeling that way. Despite those lingering emotions, I was still deeply saddened and upset by how things ended. Looking back, I started to resent myself. I should have paid more attention to how she felt. I could have told her about the extra work and why I was doing it. Maybe things could have turned out differently. Later that evening, one of my friends told me Sarah's relationship with the guy at work had only lasted a few months. After the holidays, I planned to return to the city where I live now. My vacation ended on January 6th, so I planned to leave on Friday. That way, I'd have Saturday to get organized at home and prepare for the week, and Sunday to relax before returning to work. Before I left, a friend from home called. He said he had a favor to ask on behalf of someone else and warned me I wouldn't like it. My stomach already dropped. He then told me it was Sarah. She was moving to my city to work for a relative's company, and she needed a ride. He asked if I could take her. I didn't hesitate to say no. The thought of being stuck in a car with her for hours was too much. It would have been excruciating, just like the party, and I wasn't prepared to put myself through it. He insisted Sarah and I talk, but I wasn't having any of it. I went home, and last week, I went for a run. When I stopped to rest at a park, I heard a familiar voice say, "Hi." It was Sarah. She tried to start a conversation, asking how I was and saying we didn't get to talk at the party, but I cut her off, stating I didn't want to speak with her. She told me not to be like that and that we should chat, but I refused. She asked how I could still dislike her after over a year and everything we'd been through, but I told her it wasn't resentment. I was being completely honest. I explained that thinking about her, talking about her, or even seeing her still hurts a lot, which is why I couldn't talk to her. She said that was exactly why we needed to communicate. I didn't see the point, so I just walked away. Sarah has tried to approach me twice since then, and both times I've turned her down. Some of my friends think I'm being too harsh and should talk to her for closure. Others argue that torturing her for the rest of her life is unacceptable, but that's not what this is about. I have no anger or bad feelings toward her anymore. I admit I share some of the blame, but it still stings. I can't talk to her because it's like reopening an old wound that has never fully healed. So, why am I refusing to talk to her? After reading the comments, I want to clarify, my friends weren't contacting or emailing me, telling me to talk to Sarah. It was just their perspective when the topic came up. Update, February 2nd, 2025. Hello everyone, I wanted to give another update and thank everyone for their thoughts. I read every comment, and while I didn't reply to all of them, it was only because I didn't have anything to add. I'm grateful to everyone who shared their opinions, it's been very helpful. After reading everything and thinking about it, I've decided to stick to my choice not to speak to Sarah. I forgot to include this in my original post, but I did tell a few people that I blocked her everywhere after our second breakup. Over the last 2 days, it seems her persistence has backfired. Some of our mutual acquaintances, including those who first suggested I talk to her, have grown tired of her constant attempts to reach me. They seem to have turned against her because of this. Emily, the friend I confided in at the time, posted about stalkers on social media 3 days ago. She didn't name Sarah, but many people understood what she meant. I've also seen a few comments on my initial post suggesting Sarah was stalking me. Her job in the same city, as well as her serendipitous arrival at the park, support this theory. For what it's worth, I know her uncle owns a company here, so that could be the real reason she moved, but that's not my concern, and I'm not going to investigate it. Things have been quieter. Friends have dropped the subject, and Sarah hasn't tried to contact them again. That was until yesterday. I was watching a UFC event with some coworkers. When it ended, I was on my way to my car when my phone rang. A mutual friend called. She said she'd spoken with Sarah and asked if she could relay a message. I sighed and told her to make it quick. Sarah just said that she knows why I don't want to talk to her. She promised she wouldn't contact me again but still believes we should communicate. She said the door was open if I ever wanted to discuss things. I told my friend I didn't have a message to send back and asked her not to bring Sarah up again in our conversations. If what Sarah said is true, it's a relief, but I'm not holding my breath. I wouldn't be surprised if she tried something different. Maybe she thinks giving me space will make me approach her, but it won't. That chapter of my life is now closed. I just want to focus on myself. I doubt I'll be dating anyone anytime soon. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that I should get to know people better before committing to a relationship. I've also been thinking about how loosely I use the term friend. That's another area of my life I need to reconsider. Some of the people I've called friends have shown they don't have my best interests at heart. A couple of people mentioned therapy in the comments, and I'll admit it's something I've thought about. For now, I'm letting myself heal on my own, but if I don't feel better after a while, I'll look into it further. Thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. Your advice has been very helpful in sorting everything out. Update 2, February 16, 2025. Sarah had been out of the picture for several weeks, and no one mentioned her anymore, which was nice. Then, last Tuesday, February 11th, I received a direct message from Sarah's mother. She said she wanted to apologize for her daughter's actions and asked me to call her. I've always had a good relationship with Sarah's parents. They're genuinely lovely people. Even during both breakups, they were always respectful and never overstepped. I didn't want to talk about Sarah anymore, but I also didn't want to avoid her mother. After thinking about it for a few minutes, I decided to call her. However, if she tried to get me to communicate with Sarah or anything like that, I would politely end the call. When she answered, she put me on speaker so Sarah's father could join us. I almost expected to hear Sarah's voice, but thankfully, that didn't happen. The conversation was actually very good. They started by apologizing for Sarah's recent actions. I quickly told them there was nothing to apologize for, but they insisted, claiming it was the right thing to do. They also said they had no idea what was going on until recently when they found out. They called Sarah and had a long conversation with her. Her father admitted the chat was more appropriate for an adolescent than an almost 30-year-old woman. Sarah promised she would stay away from me and seek therapy. I felt relieved, not just for myself, but also for her. Everything that happened between us wasn't ideal, but I sincerely wish her the best. I hope she finds happiness. Before we hung up, I thanked her parents and expressed how much I admired and respected them. I can now say with certainty that this is over. Sarah would never break her parents' trust. Thank you, everyone, for your advice. It meant a lot.